So hello and good morning to everyone. So our today's lead code question is 3514, which is number of unique XOR triplets part 2. So basically this is part 2 of lead code 3513. So let's see what is given in this question. So in this question we are given an integer array nums, and now here a XOR triplet is defined as the XOR of basically three elements nums of I, nums of j and nums of k, where I is less than equal to j is less than equal to k. So here we can see that I can be equal to j and j can be equal to k. So that nums of I can be equal to nums of j and can be equal to nums of k, right? And now here what we have to do is we have to return the number of unique XOR triplet values from all the possible uh, triplets or all the possible XOR triplets, right? So what is the difference between lead code 3513 and lead code 3514? So in lead code 3513 it is given that the nums array is basically a permutation of first n numbers 1 to n, right? But here in 3514 it is given that the nums array is basically a simple integer array which can contain any element, right? So let's see the example. So see here, nums in our nums array we have two elements, 1 and 3, 1 and 3. So what are the possible XOR triplets, right? What are the possible XOR triplets? So the possible XOR triplets are 1 1 1, 1 1 3, 1 3 1, which is basically these both are same only, right? 1 3 3 and then 3 3 1, or we can say 3 3 3. So these two are same and these two are same. So total we have four possible triplets. So this one is having XOR 1, this one is having XOR 3, again 3 XOR 3 is 0, then 0 XOR 1 is 1. So this one is having XOR 1 and this one 1 XOR 1 is 0 and 0 XOR 3 is 3. So how many distinct possible values? So 1 is unique, 3 is unique, 1 repeated, 3 is repeated. So we have total 2 unique XOR values or 2 unique triplets, that or we have 2 unique XOR triplet values, right? So our answer is 2, right? So let's see the constraints. So here our nums dot length array is 1500. That means we can have 1500 elements present in the nums array, and each element in the nums array can be from 1 to 1500, right? So these are the constraints given us for this question. So let's move to the approach part. So first of all what we'll do is we'll discuss the brute force approach. So what is a brute force approach? So basically what we can do is we can generate every possible triplet I j k such that I is less than equal to j is less than equal to k. So and then once we taking every triplet we'll find the XOR value of that triplet and then store that XOR value in a set, right? And then the size of the set will be our final answer, right? So this would be our brute force approach. So now as we know, so we have to take three values in the XOR. So how many possible triplets are there? So total n cube possible triplets can be there, right? But as we know our n value is less than equal to 500 1500, right? So the total triplet values can be 1500 to the power 3. And then what is the time taken to find XOR of one triplet? That is big of 1. So the total time is big of n cube. And as we know, for the this value of n, the n cube will give us time limit exceed, right? So our brute force approach will not work here. So what we can do is, so as we know, A's or B's or C can be written as this way also, that is A's or B, and then whatever value that we get, then we XOR with the third value. This is basically the associative property of the XOR. So now what we do is, now instead of choosing all the three elements in one go, what we'll do is we'll take the XOR value of every pair, and then we'll use that XOR value pair, or we can say we can then use that value of the XOR. Let's say this value be x, and then we'll XOR this value with the third value, right. So this will be our approach. Now you may think that when we take XOR of the pairs, let's say a or b, so basically what are the different values of a can have 1500 different values. Similarly, B can also have 1500 different values. So how many total possible pairs? So total possible pairs are 1500 ki square, 1500 ka square, right? So the total different pairs are 1500 square. But when we notice the constraints, a nums of I is less than equal to 1500, right? And 1500 is less than 2 की power 11, right? And 2 की power 11 is 2048, right? So 1500 can be written written with the help of 11 bits, or we can say 2048, right? Sorry, less than 11 bits, right? So the XOR possible XOR values, so the possible XOR values as per the constraints are from 0 to 2047. From 0 to 2047 are the possible XOR values that we can get, right? So instead of getting 1500 ka square, 1500 ka square XOR values, how much XOR values will we get? We will be getting only 2048 possible XOR values, right? That means, so though there are n square pairs, but they will produce only 2048 distinct XOR values, right? So when we do A XOR B for all the possible pairs, we'll get only 2048 values. And now we'll take these 2048 values, and then we'll do XOR with our array, right? With our array, right? So now what will be our optimized approach? So first thing what we'll do is we'll compute the XOR of every possible pair of the element, or every element. So we take pair I comma j with constraint I is less than equal to j, and find the XOR value of nums of I with nums of j, right? And then we mark that XOR value as achievable or not. That means if we mark that XOR value is true, that means we can achieve that XOR value in a pair. So let's see an example. So suppose if our nums array is 135, so what are the possible pairs or possible XOR pairs? So 1 XOR 1, 1 XOR 3. So basically we are pairing 1 with all the elements, then we are pairing 3 with the rest of the elements, and then we are pairing 5. So this way we'll get all the possible pairs, right? And then all the possible XOR values of each pair. So what are the achievable pair XORs, right? That is 0, 2, 4 and 6, right? So these are the 4 XOR values which we can achieve when we take pairs. Now next thing what we'll do is, now we'll treat this every achievable XOR value as the first two elements, and then as we know we have to make a triplet. So already we have this answer stored over here. Now what we'll do is we'll take the third element from the array and then XOR with all these elements, right? So for every stored value, that is 0 2 4 6 in this example, we'll XOR it with every element in the array, right? Now what will be a triplet XOR? Triplet XOR is basically the stored XOR value and then XOR with the element present in the nums array. So let's see the example. So these were our paired XORs, right? And this is our array. Now what we'll do is we'll take this XOR value, or we can say this paired XOR value, and then XOR with every element of the array. So 0 XOR 1, 0 XOR 3, 0 XOR 5. Then we'll take 2, XOR with all the elements, take 4 XOR with all the elements, take 6 XOR with all the elements, right? So then we get all the generated XOR values, right? So the distinct answer are 1 3 5 7. So these answers are basically the triplet XOR, right? So as we know, we have So how many pairs we have? So we have big of n square pairs, right? And the number of distinct pairs or values that we can get is 2048. So when we compute the XOR of all the pairs, that will take big of n square time, and then we'll combine every possible XOR value with every element in the array. So basically, what are the possible XOR values? 2048. And how many elements are there in the array? N. So that will take time as 2048 into n. So the overall time complexity is big of n square plus 2048 into n, and that we can write as big of n square, right? So let's see the code part. So we have taken the maximum XOR value that we can achieve, which is 2048, and then we have two arrays. One is paired XOR and one is triplet XOR. So paired XOR will mark those values as true, such that those values we can achieve with the help with the XOR value of the two pairs, and then we'll XOR these values with the array elements, and the answer that we get will mark that as true in the triplet XOR, right? So first of all, we'll use a we'll use two nested loops. We'll use two nested loops, and in that we'll compute XOR of the two elements, and then mark the value that we get as true in the paired XOR array, right? And then after that, what we'll do is we'll take every XOR value from the paired XOR, right? Paired XOR. If it is false, if that value is false, then we ignore that value. Else we will take that value, and then we'll XOR that value with every value in the array, and then whatever answer that we get, we'll mark that answer as true in the triplet XOR, right? And at the end, what we'll do is we'll count how many true values are there in the triplet XOR, because those are the XOR values that we can get as a triplet XOR. So we count that, and that is our answer. So at the end we return that count. So I hope I'm able to explain you the solution properly. So if you like the video, please make sure to like, share and subscribe the channel. Thank you.